Hello, and welcome to the Chatterbox Letters podcast. Today I will be reading. Today I will be doing a special presentation again. Today I will be reading my self-published book, The Minorities, the pilot, Chapter 7. I hope that everyone will enjoy listening to me while I read to you The Minorities, the pilot. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. Hold on, let me go ahead. I need to get my glasses. Hold on. I have to go get my glasses. Sorry about that. I have to get my glasses. All right. All right. Chapter 7, A Blessing for Sarah. It was the early afternoon Sarah recovered from her injuries, although her self-confidence and her self-esteem was deeply destroyed. She became emotionally impaired. Her black eyes, busted lip, and her black and bruises on her body reminded her of the attack. Sarah's friends Emily and Denise came over to the Langston household for a visit. Paul Langston welcomed the girls into his home. Emily entered through the door first. She saw Sarah was sitting on the sofa. Emily noticed Sarah's bruised face when she walked into the living room. Sarah became emotional when she saw Emily. She started to cry. Sarah, I am not going to ask how are you, but the looks of your face, it displays a very sad story. Oh my God, Sarah, you look like you're in excruciating pain. Denise entered the living room. She noticed Sarah's bruised face from a distance from the doorway. Denise was becoming startled and very emotional. She was also in tears. Denise expressed her feelings about Richard. Oh my God, that monster, that scumbag. Sarah, look at your face. All because you told his parents about your pregnancy. Sarah was feeling depressed and guilty about what had happened to her. She downed herself with pity while in the presence of Emily and Denise. You both tried to tell me. How could I be so stupid? I was just so stupid. You both told me that Richard was capable of. I didn't want to listen to both of you or take heed to what you both were telling me. I thought I knew Richard. I thought I could change him with the baby and all. I almost paid the ultimate price for not listening with my face. I thank God he didn't harm the baby. Emily was still feeling guilty for not walking home with Sarah before her brutal attack occurred. She expressed her thoughts to Sarah about Richard and the guilt she felt about not taking heed to her first reaction of what to do when she knew her friend was in trouble. Sarah, after he threatened you that day at the lockers, I should have done something. I was very scared and afraid for you, but I didn't take heed to my first intentions of Richard. Denise and I were supposed to walk home with you that day, but we didn't. I'm going to always feel guilty for that, Sarah. I'm so sorry for not walking with you, Sarah. We should have listened to you when you said you were fine. Sarah, you weren't okay. It was our intuitions to follow you home when we felt that something wasn't right with Richard. I understand, Emily, Denise. I really do understand now. It would have saved me from a brutal beating from Richard and a lot of pain. The girls shared a group hug with all the trimmings. They all put the chaos and had bad memories of Richard behind them. Sarah continued to be relieved about the fact that Richard will, let me turn the page, all right, never hurt her or the baby again. Sarah visit by the Morris. They were there at the Langston household to apologize for their son, Richard's indiscretions, and the brutal assault on Sarah. Eddie and Charlotte wanted to cry to heal old wounds from the tragedy that hit their family so hard. All right, let me see where I left off. Okay, let me see where I left off. All right. Their thoughts of being rejected by Paul Langston was held in high regards, especially when it came to about their son, Richard, and all the chaos he had caused for brutalizing and assaulting his daughter, Sarah. Paul answered the door without haste towards the Morrises, although he's still upset for what Richard did to his daughter, Sarah. Eddie apologized to Paul at the entrance of the front door with Charlotte, along with Paul, agreed to hear Eddie out. Hello, Mr. Langston. I know by now that you don't want our acquaintance at your residence, but Charlotte and I came to apologize to you, especially to your daughter, Sarah, for our son, Richard's indiscretions and the brutal assault on your daughter, Sarah. Paul encouraged Sarah to come into the living room and visit the Morrises. Sarah, if you don't mind, can we come in to visit with you, please? Paul offered Eddie and Charlotte a seat in the living room without any hard feelings towards them about their son's indiscretions. Please come in. Welcome to my home. I'm reasonable man, Eddie. There are no hard feelings against you or your wife, Charlotte. Welcome to the Langston household. Would you both care for a cold drink? Please come in and sit down in the living room if you may. No, thank you, Mr. Langston. Nothing to drink for us. We just came to apologize to you and your daughter, Sarah, for everything my son, Richard, has put you through. First of all, I would like to say, personally, I'm sorry for what happened to your daughter, Sarah. We both very sorry for what happened to Sarah and our unborn grandbaby. We can't begin to imagine Sarah's pain and what she suffered, and your pain as well. Eddie and Paul for permission for him and Charlotte to see Sarah. Paul proudly gave permission to Eddie and Charlotte to see his daughter Sarah. It's all right, Paul, if we can see your daughter, Sarah. It's all right, Eddie and Charlotte. Eddie continued feeling guilty about what happened to Sarah. He expressed his deepest feelings about his son, Richard, to Paul. Mr. Langston, Charlotte and I tried hard with Richard. We tried so hard. Richard is a totally different person to us now. Charlotte and I has given up on our son in a whole lot of ways. We still love our son no matter what. Charlotte decided her son's fate. She put the icing on the cake, ending a chapter with Richard. There was no ending to the story behind it. She expressed her deepest love for her son to Paul. Like Eddie said, Paul, Eddie, I tried with Richard. He would not abide by our rules and regulations according to our home, since the brutal beating of your daughter, Sarah. Eddie and I put our son, Richard, out of our home. His home is the state jail. Paul gave Eddie and Charlotte words of advice. When a child like that is disobedient to the fact and you feel he do not want to take heed to what you and your husband say or do for him, or what is done for him, what else can you do about a child who won't listen to reason? You let them go. You let them go as you see fit. You had to let Richard go. He needed to what it is to experience a world without you both in it. Give him a little taste of how hard life can be for him. Tough love is what I call it. Maybe Richard will decide to straighten up, believe me, just maybe he will. Eddie was very thankful to Paul for the advice he gave. He figured in a way that he and Charlotte would fully understand about their son Richard's indiscretions. They felt more welcomed in the Langston household. There was no hard feelings felt between their two families. Paul called out for Sarah. Turn the page. Sarah, sweetie, the Morrises are here for you. Sarah came down to visit with the Morris. Charlotte noticed Sarah's bruised face and revealed parts of her body. She became very emotional after seeing Sarah. She knew the damage was done to Sarah by her son Richard. Oh my God, Sarah, what did my son do to you? Oh baby, I'm so sorry. Charlotte turned to Eddie and embraced him in disbelief of Sarah's appearance. Eddie also noticed Sarah's bruised face. He was also emotional. Charlotte had never in all of her days of marriage to Eddie seen him cry. She was very surprised and shocked. The Morrises' emotions was very understandable. Eddie immediately apologized to Sarah. I'm so sorry, Sarah, for my son Richard. Saddened, disgusted, and disappointed about what their son, Richard, indiscretions. Eddie continued to embrace Charlotte before leaving the Langston household. Eddie and Charlotte couldn't look at Sarah without feeling guilty because of the magnitude of her injuries. Eddie and Charlotte prepared themselves to leave the Langston household. Paul opened the door for Eddie and Charlotte. They left without uttering another word. Sarah understood why the Morrises exited the house. I know that the Morrises meant well. I'm not mad with them at all, Daddy. I feel a little peace. It's not my baby's fault that he and she is inside of me. All I know is I'm going to love my baby no matter what, with all of my heart. Sarah embraced her father. I love you, Daddy. Paul gave into his emotions and embraced his daughter. With all the events that occurred throughout the past month, the Langston household was full of love and happiness, even for a brief moment. Paul expressed the unconditional love for Sarah and his unborn grandchild. I love you, Sarah, more than life. The day you hold your child in your arms, you're going to know what it feels like to love and love unconditionally. Your child, my grandchild, will bring you a lot of joy and happiness. He or she mean well that the world to you, you do me. Emily and Denise joined Paul and Sarah in a group-filled moment with a lot of love and understanding. It was a very special way to end a perfect day. 6 months later, after Sarah's brutal attack, she was fully recovered. Within days after her recovery, Sarah gave birth to a healthy 7 pounds, 5 ounces baby boy. She named him Paul Robert Langston. The end. I have read to everyone the last chapter in my book, chapter 7, the minorities, the palette. That's the entire book. And I was so welcome to read that to everyone. Boy, what a story. So much love between Paul, Sarah, Emily, and Denise. For Sarah. I love it very much. I want everyone to like, share, subscribe to my podcast. Like, share, subscribe to my podcast. Hit that notification button to know when I go live. Ring that bell for updates on my podcast. And I would like for everyone to, if you have a chatter letter you would like to send to me, send it to the Chatterbox Letters Podcast, P.O. Box 5556, Lakeland, Florida, 33807. Please do not hesitate to send your chatter letter. You can write anything you want in your chatter letter. Please keep it clean. Write your letter clear and discreet. Please don't hesitate to send me your chatter letter. Procrastinate and send your chatter letter today. Thank you.